So as you guys know, we are going to be writing an argumentative essay. So the point of the essay is to choose a debatable topic, which you guys should have already done, and then to choose one side of it. So this week we are going to be doing some research, because before you can really choose a side, you need to read about it a little bit. Because like I said in class, you may have an initial opinion that might change after you read about it. So I have chosen to write my paper on this question here, which is it wrong for zoos to keep animals? I chose this topic because I don't really have a super strong opinion on it. However, I have been to a lot of zoos and I enjoy going to zoos, and I love animals. So it's something that I'm interested in learning about. And like I said, I have been to zoos and I like them, but I don't have a strong opinion just yet. I know that I need to do some research. Okay, so to do research and to find our sources, which we need to have two reliable sources, we need to use the internet. So I'm gonna go to Safari and I'm at Google. Now remember, a lot of you will ask me, well, can't Google be a source? Google is a search engine, which means that you can search for things, but an actual source is going to be a website, an article, one of those things that has actual information. So Google can't be your source. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do before I get started is I'm actually going to come up here and open up my reading list, because I still have my sources on my reading list from our last project. So I'm going to swipe these to the side and actually get rid of them, just because I don't want to have a ton of stuff in here. I like to keep things tidy. Now that that's done, I know that I need to find reliable sources with information on zoos, and I need to find two sources. Like we talked about in class, you never want to use Wikipedia, you don't want to use blogs, you don't want to use opinion-based things. You really want it to be unbiased, meaning it's not giving an opinion, really. Although with persuasive writing, when we find our topic, some of it is obviously going to be opinion based, but we really want to try to find as many facts as we can. And you really want to find ones that are like .org, .net, but you have to be careful with the organizations, which we're going to talk about. So for my first search, I'm going to put information about animals in zoos. Okay, that's it. Information about animals in zoos. Now, the very first source that comes up is 10 facts about zoos. However, I noticed that this is a blog, which is something we talked about you cannot use. And even the title says Freedom for Animals. Right away, I can tell that this is going to be a source that does not like zoos. So that is biased. So the way that they're going to write about animals in zoos, their facts, they may have good facts, but they may be presenting it in a way that is trying to convince me. So I definitely need to keep that in mind, and I'm not actually going to use that blog as one of my sources. So as I keep going, we have down here Kids Connect, Zoo Facts and Worksheets. We have Zoo from Britannica, which is, probably good information. We have National Geographic Society with zoos. So this might be a good one to use, so I could look at that. But then we have PETA, right? And we have PETA down here, which is an organization. So it may end in .org. However, obviously, from the title, Pitiful Prisons, again, just like the top one, I can tell that this is going to be very, very skewed. It's going to be very biased. So I have to be careful on the types of organizations. Things like National Geographic Society is probably a pretty trustworthy source. So if I go to this website, I'm probably going to find a good bit of information, and this is actually an encyclopedia entry, which is wonderful. So this is going to give me a lot of information. So I can read about zoos here. And this is going to have and it's obviously for students, so it's looking very reliable. It has vocabulary words. So this is probably a source that I would absolutely like to use, and it even has types of zoos, safaris, and things like that, specialization. So far this is looking like a really, really good source that I could use. And remember, it has, if I go up to the top, it does have an author and a date, so that I know that this is going to be up to date, like useful, trustworthy information. Okay, so that's one way to find your sources. And before I can make a decision on which side I'm going to take, I would need to read over this. So I'm actually going to go ahead and save this as a source because this is looking like a really good one. So I'm going to go up here and click the share button. And then I'm going to hit add to reading list. So it looks like a pair of reading glasses, and that's going to add it to my reading list, which obviously I can get up here. So once I go here, oh, okay, hold on, let me try again. Add to reading list. Okay, sorry guys, I'm having a bit of a iPad issue, which by this point we are all super familiar with. Okay, well, mine is not currently working. So what I'm actually going to do, I do want you guys to add yours to your reading list, but what I'm gonna do for now is I'm just gonna add a page so that I have it saved over here, so I'm not gonna lose it. And I do wanna show you, because for the first one I put in information about zoos. Now I'm actually going to, because I wanna make sure that I'm getting some ideas for like pros and cons. So I'm gonna type in pros and cons of zoos. Because remember, pros and cons, pros are like the good things about it, cons are the bad things. So I'm gonna get lots of information from websites that are listing pros and cons. And right here, the top one is procon.org. And it says top 3 pros and cons, so that's a good bit. But here is another .org, and it says 21 pros and cons of zoos, so I can get even more. So if I open this up, and this one actually is a blog, so we're not going to use that one. All right, so we're going to keep looking. This one says 16 biggest advantages and disadvantages of zoos. So let's look at this one. We do kind of have to investigate on these types of things and make sure that we are finding good sources. So here we have the editor of connectusfund.org is the author. I have a date, which is in 2019, so that's in the last few years, so that's good. And I'm seeing headings, so that's nice. And I'm seeing a list of pros. So I know that, you know, this list right here is going to be pros, and it looks like for each pro, they are listing, they have numbers, they have, you know, a lot of data to back up their pros here. So this is looking like a good one. So it looks like we found our second one. And then we have a list of cons. So this is looking like a really, really good source that I could use to help me, regardless of the side that I choose. Because remember, even if you choose one side, so say I say, I am for animals being in zoos. I still have this source here that's going to give me the cons. So I can talk about my counterclaims then. So I could say, well, people would say this is a bad thing about zoos. However, and then I can give my counterclaims. So this source, so if you were to search for pros and cons, and you could find a source like this is going to be super, super helpful when it comes to writing your paper. So I'm very comfortable with the fact that I've chosen one that's an encyclopedia entry, so I know it's going to be just facts about it. And then I've also chosen one that shows the pros and cons. Again, once you have found your sources, you're going to hit the share button up here, and then you're going to hit add to reading list. I'll try mine again and see if it works. It it hasn't. So I don't know what's happening with my iPad. It probably needs updated, but hopefully yours saves. If not, again, you can just leave them up and you can still access them. All right, so that is how to find reliable sources, making sure that you're finding unbiased sources, and if they, and sources that are showing both sides is very, very important for this project.